Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Open Discussion Podcast. I have a special guest in the house today. He's referred to as Mr. VA, over to Dan Wrightsman. I appreciate you, brother. I really appreciate you. 30 years of military service, infantryman. I've been hesitant, right, to invite an infantry guy on here. I can't stand infantry guys anyway. But for you, brother, I'm going to make an exception just because of you.
I
Boy.
appreciate it, brother. Yeah, I appreciate, especially coming from a field artilleryman. So I
Oh,
appreciate it.
I know you're going to say that. I know you're going to say that. But yeah, but 30 years of military service, infantryman, class 65, U.S. Army Sergeant Major Academy. It changed now, right? To what is it called now? Non-commissioned
Uh,
officer, Center of Excellence, or something like that.
yeah, the non-commissioned officer center of excellence, something like that.
Excellence.
Yeah,
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 yeah. So class 65, I'm 66, so you're ahead of me. I appreciate you. Serve in multiple positions, of course. And last, right before he transitioned, served as senior operations supervisor at the Army Training Center over here at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And you currently serve as the deputy to the director for operations for the state of South Carolina Veterans Affairs. So I appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate you, brother.
yeah. Thanks, Sam. Appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to be here, and always great to have a conversation with you.
I appreciate you, man. As we were just discussing, right? The first time when I got here, the first outreach that I went on to volunteer to assist veterans was with you. You sent out an email, and then you brought me on board. And as far as just explaining to me the veteran process and how the veterans as far as South Carolina work and what you guys are doing, I really appreciate you for bringing me on board. Really, just opening my eyes to what the state is doing in terms of the veterans here in South Carolina. So I really appreciate you, man. So as we start this conversation, man, I know you did 30 long, strong year as an infantryman. It's good times, some bad times, some deployments, some ups and downs, some PCS move. But I just want to find out from you, man, what was the reason for you to really serve, and why you didn't select MOS 13 Bravo, man? You had to pick 11 Bravo, brother.
Yeah, so I'll answer that first question. Why didn't I select 13 series? One, I wasn't smart enough, man. I'll just be honest with you.
I got you. I
I was a
got you.
knuckle dragger, still am a knuckle dragger, but so part of for me joining the army, I was adopted from Korea. My dad was in the army. Mom's Korean. My dad's from Nebraska, so I had the last name Wrightsman. Um, so and growing up in the army, being a military brat was a good experience. Moving to Texas once my dad retired, and then going to California, graduating high school, I always knew I was going to join the army. Joined the army shortly after high school. Selected infantryman. One, I thought it was a fun job to do. Go out there and shoot things, blow things up. The recruiter and the guidance counselor at the processing center said, "Hey, yeah, you want to blow things up? Go infantry." Like, yeah, I
Go
got you.
infantry.
So I joined November 1991. First duty station was Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. Had a great time. I'm glad that was my first duty assignment because it really kind of was the foundation of everything afterwards. I wish I would have taken the Army a little bit more seriously the first few years. It was a good time in Hawaii. Re-enlisted and went to Washington, Fort Lewis, and now Joint Base Lewis McChord. Had a great time there. Moved around, got stationed in Korea, moved around a lot, and didn't really start taking the Army seriously until about 5-6 years. And so I kind of missed out. I didn't really apply myself. I wish I would have. But I had a great career. Did 2 tours in Afghanistan, tour in Iraq. 95, I went to Gitmo when they got a chance to see Guantanamo Bay when Castro opened up the borders of Cuba and all the Cuban migrants and Haitian migrants. So we got to go do that. So I've been to some pretty cool places and done some good things. And so the Army has always provided for me as well. So I stayed in because I was always having fun. I was married, had kids, and I just was having fun. I said, as long as I'm having fun, I'll stay in the Army. And so, hit 30 years and, hit the time to get out, which was, I was ready to go at that time. I was like, yeah, I think I'm done. I think I had a good time. But the Army was always good to me. Took care of me, gave me all the resources I needed, all the education I needed, all the things that has helped me after the Army. All came from being in the Army. So Army has been really good to me. So that's why I stayed in.
That's amazing. You just talked about something right in terms of not taking the Army seriously when you first came in. I mean, we all probably experienced the same thing in terms of what the Army is all about and if we're going to stay in or get out, whatever. For me, after the first, I would say 6 months, it kind of clicked, because I was pretty lucky. I had some real good leaders around me that saw something in me I didn't see in myself really, to where it's kind of clicked. And as time progressive, in different, I call you over time at the crossroad in your military career, determine, do I want to keep going forward? Do I want to, get out, whatever? When did it click for you? Because the infantry branch is a huge branch, right? Very competitive and different places to go, different things to do. But when did it click for you to say, I think I'm going to do, 10, 15, 20 more years of this thing?
So really, it clicked when I went to be a recruiter.
Okay.
So I was in Hawaii. I think I'd been in about 6 years then, maybe seven. And then I volunteered for recruiting duty because being in the infantry, my knees are starting to hurt, my back was starting to hurt. I was like, yeah, I could go be a recruiter. And
Did you say you volunteer for recruiting?
I did. I volunteered to be a
Get out of
recruiter.
here.
So I looked at drill sergeanting and I looked at recruiting, and I was like, man, I think I'll go be a recruiter. I think recruiting might be a little bit more fun to do.
Yeah.
So I went to recruiting duty. I was stationed in Sacramento, California. Did recruiting duty for 3 years. But being part of that environment where you had to sell the Army to get people to join, and it's a sales job. I mean, you have a
Yeah.
quota, and I didn't shy away from the quota because when people ask, "Don't you have a quota?" I said, yes, I do. The Army has to be strong. It needs new soldiers. So yes, I definitely need to have a quota I have to meet, and we needed to have a strong Army. Um, Being in that culture kind of started to get me to understand the value of the Army and what the Army can do for you more than the first 5, 6, 7 years that I was in. I was like, man, the Army does have a lot of opportunities and a lot of things that I didn't really understand until I was telling the Army story. So when I started telling the Army story, and I was like, man, this is really impactful, not just to the person I'm talking to about the Army, but also to me as well. That's when I started taking it serious. That's when I started like, hey, I probably should apply myself a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so I did. I started really trying to work hard and studying more, volunteering for schools that I should have gone to a long time ago, and just really doing things that I needed to do to help myself progress in the Army and understand how the Army operated, not just from the team leader level and squad leader level, but from a more enterprise level of what the
Yeah.
Army can do and how the Army operates.
That's amazing, right? Because you've been exposed to so many different things in terms of your career, different assignment, different, duty station, and you came across different leadership. And one thing I've always somewhat, tell folks here is that as you progress in different position, you have to some extent adjust your leadership style. I mean, your core essence of who you are remains the same, right? Your core value remains the same, but every organization is overall different. And I was talking to somebody not too long ago. We were talking about the ability for non-commissioned officer to overall adapt. You know what I'm saying? So when did you realize that, I'm going to this organization. I just left one organization. I'm going to a new organization. And when you got there, you assess the organization overall. If we're speaking from, let's say, from first sergeant perspective or platoon sergeant perspective, right? Because now you have huge level of responsibility. How were you able to manage the responsibility you were given? Because you and I can agree. We can all talk about how this position or this rank prepare you for the next, but you got no idea what's expected when you hit that position. How were you able to manage, and when you got in those key leadership positions up to probably first sergeant, whatever the case may be, to navigate successfully in leading troops in the right direction?
For me, it was when I got to Fort Lewis the second time. Um, when was that? 2008, I think. I got there the second time. We just came back from Iraq. So 2007, I'm sorry. Yes, about 2007. So it's a brand new strike brigade. I was in strikers in Alaska. So we got down there, 5th Brigade, 2ID Striker Brigade. And it was a brand new brigade. It was like I showed up to 4th Battalion, 23rd Infantry. I think, I was in Bravo Company. I think we had a total of about 40 soldiers.
Mm.
And so as we were standing up the battalion and the brigade, a lot of us were kind of dual or triple hatted. So I was platoon sergeant. I was also the XO, and I was also I can't remember, something else I did too. But so we had a bunch of different things that we had to do, and then you couldn't, being the company XO or the acting XO, I couldn't be the same person I was as the platoon sergeant, because now I'm talking to battalion XO, S4, different people. And so it's like you have to change your leadership style to who you're talking
Yeah.
to. You have to change how you and how your soldiers are coming into as well. Some are brand new privates trying to stand up things, and some are seasoned NCOs, officers. So how you talk and interact with them to get them to understand what we're doing as the changes were coming about too, as more processes and SOPs and systems got in place. Having to explain that to them, you had to change you had to understand your position, and you had to understand how to communicate that to different people. It was not the hammer that, I was used to being like, hey, I'm a hammer. I can just, bang it down and somebody will understand it. That's when I really had to start learning how to communicate differently, how to communicate with senior leaders, colonels, generals, whoever, sergeants, majors, and understand that, hey, you can't be the same person that you were, or the same leader that you were as a staff sergeant, or even sometimes as a sergeant first class.
Yeah. And I appreciate for sharing that, because sometimes, NCOs, as far as seeing non-commissioned officer put in different positions to wear different hats. As for me, I was lucky enough to assist. I don't want to say me, but I was lucky enough to help in building a brigade from scratch. We showed up. There was no playbook. There was no blueprint. They said, here you go, build a brigade from scratch. So now you have to, like you said, wear different hats, and that just make you a better person. You talk about your operation deployment in both Afghanistan and over Iraq, and it's something we don't talk about, right? Because of course what we experience, of course, some things we can talk about, in terms of operation is concerned. But I just wanted to just focusing on just two aspects of it, right? As far as you deploying, you trying to handle the stress of deployment, trying to adapt and make sure you bring everybody home safely. But you also have the family side to it as well. Now you have a spouse, you have children that you have to leave and over deploy. How was that conversation, right, with the wife? Say, hey, baby, we're going over here. We're going to be back, and when you got in the country, were you able to focus, meaning focus on the operation ongoing at the same time, making sure the home front is doing okay? Because we don't talk about just the level of stress that comes along with overall deployment. We don't talk about it because you're so focused on the operation at hand. Sometimes you even forget what's happening back home. But how were you able to navigate that? How did your family handle you being deployed and you being able to handle the stress that comes along with deployment?
So I'm very fortunate that I have a very supportive and resourceful wife, and she's
That's good.
very capable of doing things. So I'll just give you a good example. So in 2005, 172nd Strike Brigade, Alaska, we got no notice extension. We already had 300 people from our brigade, Advon, back in
Man.
Alaska. And we're hearing all the chatter. You hear the rumors and stuff. You kind of like dismiss them. You're trying to maintain the rumor mill and say, hey, disregard. Don't pay attention to it. But then the notice came down. General Casey, I think, was the chief of staff at the time, and I may get some names wrong, but I'm
Oh, that's
thinking.
fine. That's
Yeah,
fine.
I think General Casey, he came up to Mosul where we were at, and that was our brigade leadership, and said, "Hey, I'm extending you." I was on my final mission, at least it was supposed to be my final mission, over on QRF, and we kept hearing these rumors, and so I called back on the radio. I was like, "Hey, are we getting extended?" And they just said, "Roger." I was like, "Okay." So I called the wife when I got back to the fob, and it was just like she had already heard, and she was upset, but she understood, and
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. She understood, and I think a majority of the wives understand, or even the husbands, because there are women soldiers as well. The spouses understand,
Yeah.
and for me, that made it easier for me deployed, knowing that she is capable of doing things on her own, and her understanding it. So it made it easier for me downrange. And we always had each other too. I always said the family members we leave behind have it harder because sometimes they leave, they don't stay at home station. They go back home wherever they don't have that support network. And that's what my wife did. She went back to Texas, and so she didn't have that support network. But when you're deployed and things happen, you have each other. Something
Yeah.
catastrophic happens, bad news comes down. We have each other. I have my platoon. We had each other. We all could vent together. We could all complain together. But at the end of the day, we also did, it's like, it is leadership. Hey, I give my guys 24 hours to complain. After that 24 hours, hey, we got the next mission to do. Let's, ruck up, let's go. We're not going to change anything. So being upset isn't going to make it any better. It's just going to make it worse for us. And that's what I told my wife too. It's like, hey, we don't have to like it, but we are where we are. We can't change what's happening. So let's go at it with a good attitude. We can be upset, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be here for 4 or 5 more months. You're going to be there by yourself for 4 or 5 more months. I know you've got some great friends around and some other things that can help you, but we have a mission to do, and this mission that we're doing is important. And I appreciate your support.
That's amazing, because I experienced something very similar 2006 during surge, and we left May the 2nd, went up over toward Iraq. up and up decreed, and it was supposed to be, I think, 4 or 5 months rotation. And then as you're right after, time to somewhat, close up shop. We had Jeremy Crystal came down and they had some barbecue going on, some steaks and lobster. I said, oh yeah, we go again.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are doing a wonderful job. We're going to keep you guys for a couple more months. Okay. So every 4 months he showed up. So we ended up doing 15 months straight. And I was like, Jesus Christ, how we're going to manage this whole process. But it's a good life experience. You have to manage your side of the house, your family, you personally, right? But you have an organization you have to worry about, no matter if it's a platoon, a company, a troop, or a battery. So how will you ever, because now you have soldiers who, may look at things differently. As a leader, you say, okay, we got to keep moving forward. We understand the mission. But Private Zoker over here be like, hey, something ain't right. How will you able to, because it comes down to effective communication, right? We talk about how were you able to communicate that to the formation, saying, hey, man, we have changed the mission. We're going to be here for another 4, 5, 6 months. And how do you guys were able to manage that while focusing on the mission at hand? Because now folks, because you know how it is, when you deploy, right before you redeploy, is to some extent you kind of click in and click out. But now you have to be re-engaged and go back out there. How were you able to manage that piece with your organization? Let them know, hey, we're here to do a mission, and you guys focus. And how were you able to communicate that with your organization?
Yeah. So it really came down to sharing the experience, right? So I think I was frustrated, and that's why I gave everybody the 24 hours. I talked to the PL. I was like, hey, we just can't expect people to not complain. We're not doing ourselves any favors, And so me and the PL, Lieutenant Jeffers, we said, yep, okay, 24 hours. You guys got 24 hours to complain. We're going to complain with you. But after that, we have the next mission we have to do. We have to get ready to go down to Baghdad because we're going to have to go clear Baghdad. That was the big Baghdad clearing mission where we had to clear all of it. And so we can't waste time feeling sorry for ourselves. We have to get this done. So we took that 24 hours and, truthfully, we all complained. I mean, I was the first one to say, hey, man, this is dumb. It doesn't make sense. I might want to go home with my family. That's where, we've done our time here. And we had losses after we got extended, and we all felt that it was it was a shame. It was a waste because we should all be back home. Like these guys who we lost should be with their families, not over here in Iraq. Especially because EFPs were becoming a big deal back then.
Big thing.
So it was letting people vent and be themselves. And even when I went to Afghanistan both times, that was kind of my approach was that, you have to be yourself still. I mean, we're in the Army, we have a mission to do and we have the next thing to do. But, I got kind of yelled at by my sergeant major a couple of times. At first, I let my guys wear, hoodies, NFL hoodies, basketball hoodies. Because I said, hey, when you guys are not on patrol, you got to be able to still come back to who you are.
Yeah, it's pretty cool too.
Yeah, you have to be you. You have to be the person from the Chicago Bear fan. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. I got to be the Dallas Cowboy fan.
Oh, no, I knew it. I'm an Eagles fan, man. I knew it.
Yeah, so I think oh man, I got when we win the Super Bowl this year, I got something.
Oh, you guys say it's almost every year.
Well, we'll be right 1 year. We'll be right 1 year. So.
I got you.
But I think it's when bad things happen, letting people be who they are. And we are soldiers, but people can feel things. People can be upset. There's a lot of things that you still have to tell people to kind of suck it up and deal with things, but they still have to feel things, especially when you have a loss and you have a catastrophic event. So that was always my approach was we have our mission to do. And yes, we are soldiers and we're in the Army and there were certain things that are expected of us. We were expected to be hard. We're expected to be tough and do our mission, but you are still people at the end of the day. And if you feel emotions, it's okay. You can be upset, but just be aware of how you communicate how upset you are, because not everybody's going to understand it the way we understand it. So just be. I'd always want to let people be who they are.
Yeah, that's the right way to put it. Because losing anybody in combat can be very devastating, man. And for folks who have not served, would not be able to comprehend the level of stress that places on you, because you in country, you on a FOB or whatever you in, and you have to do those REM side, as far as ceremony and layers of falling asleep to rest, and you have to go back out there, with just what you just experienced. want to compare both Iraq and over Afghanistan, right? If you don't mind me, just talk about my over deployment here, if you don't mind. Two different countries, two different operations. In your opinion, because in my opinion, I do believe, I don't want to use the term easy, but I do believe the Iraq fight was a little bit different because urban, of course, well developed compared to Afghanistan, a lot of mountains, and a lot of places that you were involved in. How will you compare both deployments and when you were deployed to both Afghanistan and Iraq? Which one you say was the toughest and why?
So I would say Afghanistan
Okay.
was tougher.
Mm-hmm.
And there's in Iraq, you kind of hit Iraq. They're a little bit more westernized, a little bit more educated. You have certain things, like electricity, right? Like Mosul and
Yeah.
Baghdad and all these places, Fallujah, they have electricity and there's cars and um, you you're kind of in an environment that you're surfing that. We were out in Rawah in Iraq, which is out towards the border of Iraq and Syria, so it was a little bit
Yeah.
more desert. But you go to Afghanistan, and it's just hard terrain. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
mountainous. There's not a lot there. You get to some of the bigger cities like Kandahar. There's power, but it's still uneducated. It's a harder, and the people there have been fighting for centuries,
Yeah.
and so they know what they're doing. The fight was harder. I think, and they because of the experience they had with Russia coming down and knowing how to deal with armored vehicles, especially
Mm-hmm.
strikers, and how they place the IEDs and the amount of explosives made it a lot more entertaining for sure to go down there. And it's also I think when I first got into the country, somebody told me it was like Islam on steroids in Afghanistan. Like they're very devout, very set. Iraq, you can still see women walking around.
Yeah.
Afghanistan, you are not going to see women walking around. You are not going to see certain things that you would in Iraq. So I think that's what made Afghanistan harder. And the very same people that you were helping that day, maybe put in a well or do something, those are the same ones that you see at night coming out and doing IEDs
Yeah.
or fighting you the next day or something. So yeah, that's why I thought Afghanistan was harder.
No, I fully agree. Two different fights, two different terrain, two different enemy, two different. Just the entire process a little bit different compared to Iraq. So thanks for your operation deployment, and thanks for what you did out there and leading troops and just doing the right thing. Now you do your time, infantry guys, you guys get promoted pretty quick. Now you find yourself in the Sergeant Major Academy, right? Now you over in the master bedroom doing some big things, and then you depart after about a year or 10 months. Got to your new organization. How would you say the academy, somewhat prepare you to be a sergeant major, uh, prepare you to be a better leader? Because when I went through 66, I think we have five different what is it called? On directorate. I forgot what it's called, but it was five different, DAO and DLC, whatever, join whatever the case may be. So, what did you took from the academy? That prepare you, or what you believe that when you left the academy, when you prepare to be, an operation sergeant major or CSM and stuff like that? What do you think you took away from the academy?
So the lessons I took away from the Sergeant Major Academy was one, network. It is being a sergeant major means that you got a network.
Yeah,
If you know who the BSB sergeant major is, you know who the G1 sergeant major is. You can build those relationships, which will help you, hopefully help you, and just if anything, give you some more. It makes you more diverse in your knowledge and your work
hmm
experience. Because being an infantryman, really, I was kind of siloed into infantry stuff. Even when I was in the 504th Battlefield Surveillance Brigade in Texas, which MI Brigade, it was still
yeah,
infantry stuff I was doing. So I really didn't have a lot of experience outside of that. But that sergeant major kind of gave me that experience and taught me the importance of getting to know other sergeant majors in other branches, even field artillery sergeant majors.
yeah.
Um, so it was really the networking piece of it. The preparation for operational planning, I thought was really good. So it kind of set us up, following the Iron Majors and understanding what their
Yeah.
expectations were. So when you go to work for that S3, or you understand what battalion XOs expectations are, that was very helpful for me as well. And then believe it or not, what was it called? The military history part of it. I had
Yeah.
a great instructor, Sergeant Major, now retired Flood. He really made sure we understood the history of the Army and why we do the things that we do, like change responsibility ceremonies, why it's important, why we do them the way that we do. Understanding the history of the NCO Corps, and highlighting, when we did our staff ride, highlighting how NCOs were significant contributors to the successes of battles and wars that we've had. That really put it into perspective. That it's like, yeah, we NCOs do a lot of things, and more than people think that they do.
Yeah, yeah, same here, same here. I think I grabbed something from it. I was in DCL, Department of Command and Leadership, I think it's called. I'm not sure if it's still the same. And I was put in Miss Williams' class. Anybody who
Mm,
listened to this podcast, if you remember Miss Williams,
yeah, I do.
she was outstanding, brother. I'm telling you, she was outstanding. She had a profound impact on me. I had to go home and read some doctrine, because when you first come into class every day, she's going to start asking questions. And she had one of those WWE belts.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you answer the question right, she gave you the belt. I can't remember if she would give me that belt, because I was messing it up for some reason. But she was very, 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 very inspirational for me and many other students. And I learned a lot from her, just from her class alone. Of course, there was other cadre members in different, as far as department, that I learned from. But for her, Miss Williams, she had a profound impact on me, rather, because I had to go home and read something, because I knew when you sit in the class, first in the morning, she's going to ask you questions. And you don't want to look stupid on there. So you complete the academy, you went to your first organization. Now, you assigned major now, right? A lot of things have changed. You trying to change everything so far you believe was wrong, you know. So we have those
Yeah.
unrealistic expectations, right? Yeah, when I'm assigned major, I'm going to change X, Y, Z. Just want to
Mhm.
explore the position for me, if you don't mind. No matter if you are an operation or staff assigned major or command assigned major. What are some things you saw coming up, you believe that I can fix or I can change or make some recommendation, compared to when you got in a position, you can realize, oh, okay, I think this is a little bit different now, because you don't have command authority. You have a commander, or you have an officer you're working alongside with. How was that for you? How did you manage that?
So for me, it was, I kind of had to take a big step back. So light infantry guy, I was a striker guy. So I knew light infantry tactics. So, even strikers, it's a vehicle. You get off, you dismount, you do all the stuff you're going to
Yeah.
do, and you come back and do other stuff. But I got sent to an armor battalion,
Oh,
Fort Carson. So 166 Armor Battalion, it was great because I was the ops sergeant major, and the battalion sergeant major was a classmate of mine, Sergeant Major Darwin Williams, who is now the SVAC sergeant major.
okay.
So it was great because we already had a relationship and we knew each other.
Yeah.
And then, but I had to take this big step back because I didn't understand tanks or Bradleys. I didn't understand the formations. I didn't understand gunnery. I'm a gunnery. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
Just
we
go to
talking about, right?
Yeah. I didn't understand how they go to the field. Like light infantry, just get your ruck, you go,
Yeah.
you're in the field. But
Hmm.
it's a big operation to get an armor battalion out to the field. So for me, I looked at it as I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I understand the orders process. I can help advise the S3, who had a great S3, Major Hertling, who went to Gun Brigade, and I think I don't know, he's somewhere now. But I had a great S3 who kind of coached me through, and then he left. I had another great S3 come in, Major Campbell, who helped me understand how armor operations and Bradley operations. And so I was like, okay, I got it. And so once I started to understand that, and it was about, I came on the CSL about a year later, so I didn't stay too long. I stayed about a year. But during that year is when I really learned how valuable it is as a sergeant major to not try to change things, to not come in and say, I know everything and I'm going to fix something. Let me learn about something first and see if anything needs to be fixed, because chances are it doesn't. And that's where I really started to understand or want to know the history of decisions, because I always believe people make decisions with the best information they have at the time and the best resources they have. So when you say we do it this way, what is the reason that we do it that way? And is it because the decision made and things have changed that we can do something different or better, or was this actually the way that should be done? well, this is the reason why we did it. Okay, that makes sense. Don't change anything. And when I came out of the CSM for Battalion Fort Jackson, I took that same approach. I followed a great Sergeant Major and had a great battalion commander, Sergeant Major Blaisdell, 5th Corps Sergeant Major now. I didn't change anything when I came in. There was no reason to, because he had a great battalion. The battalion commander was sticking around. He's like, hey, this is how we do things. And I had a great left seat, right seat ride. There was no reason to change anything. So I'm not a big fan of a sergeant major coming in and saying, I want to change something just because I'm the sergeant major and look at me, here I am. That's a way, but I don't know that that's the preferred way. I think you cause more churn for the organization if you start trying to make changes. And I think you and I both have that experience where somebody comes in, a senior leader, and says, now we're going to change this. And all the pain that's felt underneath as we try to adjust to that one person, when I think that one person could adjust easier to the systems and processes that are already in place and understand why those are there. Maybe there's some things that are wrong, but I don't know that coming in right away in 30, 60 days, say, I'm going to make a change is the best thing to do. I know the old saying of, hey, pick one or two things that you want to change throughout the year or your tour. I say sometimes maybe don't change anything. Just let it run. And if something needs to be fixed, maybe take a look at it and see how you can make it better, because you're a smart guy. I think I'm a sort of smart guy. We made smart decisions based off what we had. And it's kind of like, you do your left seat, right seat ride, and you're in country and you do your RIPTOA. That organization comes in behind you, always thinks that you screwed something up and they're going to fix something. And that's not always the case. Sometimes just let it ride and understand the decisions why that were made for that to make those changes or put those things in place.
Yeah, that's a great point you just made. I've seen both officers and seeing officer and seeing enlisted that comes in the organization and right away want to change stuff, right? And I've always advocated, say, hey, man, you come to the organization, your job is to assess and observe, see what's going on. Sometimes some things that you stated, right, has to be changed right away. We got it, But I think it's good for you as a CS and to come in. You're in a commander, come in, assess, observe. I don't care if it took 30 days, just observe. Some things may has to be changed right away if it's, detrimental to the organization. But once you observe and you conduct that one-on-one conversation with folks, collect some kind of consensus and feedback and do some as far as town hall, talk to soldiers and talk to folks, it will give you an idea in direction where the organization is overall going, whether some things you may want to change and somewhere as a CSM make those recommendations, right? But we have guys want to come in right away and derail the organization because I'm the guy or I'm the girl. And sometimes it may not work. Like I said, some changes are somewhat required, but I think it's critical that of course, folks that are still serving, right, to go in the organization, observe. And then from a CSN standpoint, your job is to make those recommendations to our commander. Say, sir, I've observed X, Y, Z. This is what, the information is talking about, is whatever the case may be. Because change is only effective if folks are involved within the change process. You have to. You cannot be in your office all day and believe you're going to change everything. You got to get out there and talk to folks and see what's going on. And hopefully you can give that commander, your best as far as advice. And commanders has to be very, very in terms of, flexible when it comes to changing as well, because every commander come in, the first thing that he or she publishes what, their vision, what. Okay. So that's a big difference between as far as the military and the civilian sector. For you and I who've been in the civilian sector for a couple of years, the organization has a vision, but in the Army, the commander's vision, right? So two separate things so far. But yeah, just want to share that with you. And I experienced something similar as you as well. When it comes to just coming to an organization, trying to figure things out as well. Because I went to the academy, came from Bragg, been heavy, went to the academy, completed, went as a CSM to a heavy organization. So how do you balance that in terms of understanding exactly what the mission is all about? Because the core essence of an FA unit still remains the same, but there's some things that you say that you just don't know. You have to learn, and make sure you can be a value added to your commander. How was your relationship really with the commander? I always want to ask folks this question because I think it is important to have that relationship with that command, because you guys are considered a command team. Is very, very important that, those, no matter what level you're serving at, to have that relationship, meaning you guys can go into your office or his office, have those deep conversations, have the disagreement, But at the end of the day, so far, you're speaking on behalf of the command because, of course, the CSN, you represent the command. But how was your relationship, and was there any friction at any time you observed, and how did you manage that?
Yeah, I had I won't say I had a perfect relationship, but I had a good relationship with both battalion commanders. I had the first one was really great. It was um, very mutually supporting of both of us, and that was a lot of because I was taking over basic training battalion, which I
Yeah,
knew I was never a drill sergeant. I was recruited, but never a drill sergeant. So I didn't know the drill sergeant life and the
yeah,
basic training life, especially at Fort Jackson. So again, I had to take that step back to look and see how do these things work. And the battalion commander is smart, Sergeant Major Blaisdell is smart, so they made these decisions um, for a reason. So let me figure out what the reason is, and that's why I didn't need to change anything because I'm still learning, but two,
yeah.
everything makes sense. And then the second battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel George, great. Now Colonel George, a special forces guy. We had a great relationship. We did have some friction points or just kind of different ideas of how to approach things. At the end of the day, he's the commander, so I support what he wants. We I always had the ability to go in and talk with him, and he was always open and receptive. He would explain how he sees things. I would explain how I see things, and at the end of the day, I say, "Hey, sir, I don't see things the way you do, but you're the boss. So if this is what you want, we're going to go out there and execute. And my job is to implement the strategies and initiative to support your goals and end states. And that's what I'm going to do. So anything that I do will be to support what you want. Did I get it right every time? Probably not. But it was never trying to go outside the lines. It was never trying to undermine authority. It was always to employ the strategies and initiatives. And I think I heard some members of the Army Daily say it at PCC, and I was like, that makes sense. We come up with this NCOs, we come up with the strategies and initiatives to support the commander's intent or his end state or his vision. And so putting those things into place and making sure that it was clicking and working. Like one of the things I did, I started counseling all of the senior drill sergeants and just say, this is the quarterly training guidance. This is what battalion commanders expects. This is what he wants. That way everybody understands, working two levels down, that's what everybody understands what we're supposed to be doing. And if the first sergeants and I know the first sergeants were doing it, they would counsel the drill sergeants, say, hey, this is what the expectations are for this cycle. So that way everybody's the strategic communication, everybody understands, there's shared understanding, there's the shared vision, for lack of a better phrase. So everybody's rowing in the same direction. So to answer your question, I had good relationships with both of them. I still talk to, both of them today. Not as much as I used to, but we still talk and just catch up and see how everybody's doing. But yeah, great relationships.
Yeah, I think this agreement sometimes can be pretty healthy. I usually tell folks, in order for you and I to have a philosophical discussion, there's a huge possibility somebody's going to get pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all have feelings, we all have our own position and interests. But at the end of the day, as long as it's in the best interest of the organization, I think we should be okay. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
You're in a commander closed door disagreeing with the commander. You just have to do it very respectfully. Because you have difference of opinion. You can see things differently, but it's about you creating that atmosphere to where you and our commander can have that dialogue in his office or your office, where both of you guys can have that conversation. It comes down to really relationship. And
Yeah.
through that, you can create trust among one another. Because I've seen firsthand where the battalion commander and the CSN don't see eye to eye. They don't get along. And you can tell, when walking in meeting to go places, there's always the CSN always by himself. And then it presents a bad atmosphere for the
Mm-hmm.
entire organization. So if you're out there, you see us and you're listening to our commander, please work on your relationship with your command partner and make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. You do your
Yeah.
battalion time, get time. Now you over there working as the big guy over at Jackson, operation wise. Touching everything you can get your hands on the installation. So it's a complete different responsibility now, right? Because you're seeing things at
Mm-hmm.
the nominal level a little bit different. How was that in terms of working at the enterprise level? Jackson now working with different entities, different stakeholders on the installation. From where you were, and how were you able to transition from one position to the next and become successful within that space?
Yeah, so Fort Jackson is a unique installation in that you have the Army Training Center in Fort Jackson, which is two brigades. which is really all they have direct control over. And the rest are just, kind of tenant units, especially other nominative positions as well, like SSI, Soldier Support Institute. That's a nominative position. So that sergeant major there is a nominative sergeant major. And then garrison, falls under INSCOM and different things. So managing those relationships, especially when it comes to taskings, right? It's like, hey, we got to task you to do this. And, I'm not,
Nobody want to be
Drill
tasked.
Sergeant Academy, you guys don't have authority over me. You're not going to task me. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So but it really came down to relationship building. And it was, it was really a good effort. I was very, very fortunate to have Lieutenant General Beagle as installation commander. He was ATC commander, doing great things. I had two post sergeant majors who were very supportive and could get things done. But really going out, and because I was on Jackson as the battalion CSM and then as the brigade ops sergeant major, I had a lot of relationships on Fort Jackson also. What threw me for a loop was understanding the relationship between us and the Center for Initial Military Training relationship, which is our direct hire, and then our relationship with TRADOC as well. It was just unique to me because like this is weird. It's just we have TRADOC telling us what to do and CIMT telling us what to do. So trying to navigate that and understand that relationship took me a little bit of time to figure out. But again, I was very fortunate. I just took a step back, and the G3 Colonel Pieri was battalion commander in Fort Jackson also, but he was a very smart guy and he kind of explained it to me. Had a good chief of staff, had good people who could explain things to me. And then once I started to figure out, okay, this is, the role of the G3 sergeant major is not the, I'm going to go down to the company and be the hammer and say you're behind on this, behind on that. It really is because they have a brigade commander who can tell you no, and they have battalion commanders who can say no. So it's really about how do we message that? And that's really where the inclusiveness comes. So when you put a working group together, hey, I need a group from garrison, I need a group from both brigades, I need a group from whoever. This is the problem set. This is what we need to get to. This is what the CG's intent is, and this is what the goal is. So what can we do to get to this point? Well, this is what we can do. Okay, great. We're going to put this into an order. We'll send it out to you guys for review. Take a look at it. Let us know if it makes sense. Share it with your three. Share it with your battalion, brigade commanders, whoever, and give us your feedback. And once we get that, then we can put it out. And then, didn't work every single time. There's some tweaks, but about probably 75% of the time that it made things easier, especially as we were going through COVID. And over communicating was key because so many things were changing so fast, and questions about sterilization and vaccines and everything else. You really over communicating, I think, was a key part as being part of the G3 sergeant major.
That's amazing, man. That's a very complex job, right? To be an ops sergeant major. I was lucky enough to have some real outstanding guys who I work alongside. I was working within the operations center and did some real great jobs. So I really appreciate you for just serving in that overall capacity. Now, 30 years, now it's time for you to transition. We all have to go through transition, right? How would you describe your preparation from an individual standpoint and from a Army standpoint in terms of as a tab, how you prepare and then transition? And if there's anything you could have done differently to prepare for your transition, but how was your transition overall into the civilian sector?
So overall, it was a good experience. But I put a lot of pressure, and I think a lot of people who transition out feel that pressure. I think in talking with you, you felt some pressure too. I had, a couple of kids in high school, middle school. Got to make sure a family's taken care of, and you're going through that transition process. So that pressure for me was to make sure that I had, income after I retire. Because nothing's guaranteed, so I got to get a job, right? Okay, again, I'm going to have my Army retirement check, yes, but I still have to get a job because that's obviously not going to be enough. So I put pressure on myself, and so I went to work at a couple places right away. Didn't work out, and then I was able to get the job here, which I've been at now for almost 4 years, working for the state of South Carolina. But that pressure I put on myself didn't really give me the time to decompress from the Army. And take that time for myself and my family to kind of figure out, what is it that I really want to do? What is it? I've been an Army guy for 30 years. So, I was, how old when I retired? I was 40, 48, 49, something like that. So most of my adult life, I was in the Army. I was a soldier. That's who I identified as. That's who my family identified as, the spouse of the family and spouse of a service member. So what I tell people now when I talk about transition is take some time and just be bored. Travel, figure things out, decompress, get up at 9 o'clock if you want to. Just change your routine because you need to take that time for yourself. You owe it to yourself. Whether you've done 6 years, whether you've done 30 years, you owe it to yourself and your family to take some time and just spend it on them and spend it on yourself to figure out who you are. So my transition was good because I've been able to stay in this job for almost 4 years now. I've been able to stay and plant roots here in South Carolina, which, when I came out of the seat as CSM, I had some opportunities to go somewhere else, but I think God had different plans, which is why I stayed here, which I'm grateful for looking back, because that allowed me to build networks and build relationships, which helped me not necessarily, transition out of the Army, but also it gave me that support network that I needed when I needed it. So I would say that overall, good transition. I thought that the TAP briefs at Fort Jackson were good. They prepare you, but you don't know what those briefs are until you hit those points. So it's 5 days of drinking out of a fire hose, a lot of information. And I didn't know what they were talking about until I hit that point. I was like, oh, when you talk about a benefits due at discharge, delivery at discharge, that's what you mean. I'm 95 days away. I need to get this going at the 90-day mark. So that's what you guys mean. This is what you guys are talking about. So it was I'm still going through that transition process. I talked to a couple of people, and that change from who I was in the Army to, who I'm trying to maybe still figure out who I am on outside of the Army, I don't think we'll ever stop. I don't think we ever stop transitioning from the military. I think we always go through that, and we always rediscover ourselves. It's like, hey, maybe I do like this, or maybe I used to never like this, but maybe I do like this now, or I used to like this, but now I don't like this now. So I don't think our process will ever stop. Our transition process will ever stop. I don't know if there's a timeline for it. But so far for me, I can't complain too much. It's not too bad of a transition now.
Yeah, transition, man, we all have to experience it. I tell folks you have to be prepared for it. Don't wait till last minute. Stop preparing now. Intend to work when you transition. The question we always ask folks is where you want to be when you grow up, right? To some extent, understand what you're trying to do. Talk to folks. You talk about network, get into different social group and just talk to folks. And I think what you said earlier is very, very important in terms of once you transition, do you want to take some time off, decompress, get to know yourself, and how long is that going to be, And a lot of friends that I've seen, yeah, I'm going to take off 6-8 months. By the time you look what happened, the second month everybody's working already, right? So it's different stroke for different folks. So you just got to determine how it works for you and how you're going to manage it. I want to talk just a little bit more about your current position. You're serving as the deputy to the director of operations over here at the Department of Veterans Affairs for the state side. What are some things you think that veterans should know when it comes to the state, VA? I know you guys have the Pathfinder program over there. If you want to talk about that a little bit more, that's up to you. But what are some things in terms of the statewide benefits and things that veterans within the state of South Carolina can tap into to make their life a little bit better?
Yeah, sure. Definitely appreciate the opportunity to share, stuff we're working on at the state level. So the first thing is that we are the state agency in South Carolina for the military community and veterans. So just brief history, about 4 years ago, maybe now 5, this was a division, but then got moved up to a full-fledged department in South Carolina with the secretary, sitting on the governor's cabinet. And so we worked really hard over the last few years to develop 2 things. One, the South Carolina Veteran Coalition and the Pathfinder program. So the South Carolina Veteran Coalition is our one-stop shop place for veterans and transition service members to find organizations that provide services for a bunch of different things, right? So everything from career services to housing assistance to financial assistance to social connections, workouts, fitness, nutrition, whatever, it may be. And we vet those organizations, make sure that they're good organizations. They don't charge anything to the clients, the veterans who are using their services. And then we put them in there to make sure that people know where to go to find them. Because when I first started looking at organizations to help veterans in South Carolina, I was getting ready to transition out. I'm like, well, what's that? Yeah. It's like the Wild West, right? You Google it,
yeah,
200 different things pop up. And I'm like, I don't know what any of this stuff means. But if we can, so former Secretary Grimsley at the time was like, hey, if we can create a place where somebody knows that these are trusted organizations, that would be a win. And so we worked really hard. We've got about 168 different organizations in there now, statewide and national, all doing great and wonderful things. We've seen a lot of tremendous growth over the past year. And with that, so we're happy with that. The second one, you mentioned the Palmetto Pathfinder program. And that really came about, part of the governor's challenge was to reduce veteran suicide. And so this program was originally designed to connect with transitioning service members to act as a sponsor through the transition process, to help go through that, because what a lot of research has shown is that the most dangerous time for transitioning service members is that first 90, 120 days that they leave service, because just so many things are unknown at the time. So we figured if we could get them a sponsor to kind of go through that process with them, make sure they're okay, and just, be there for that transition service member, that would be a win to get upstream in veteran suicide prevention, take some of that stress and pressure off. And then it turned into, hey, veterans need assistance as well. They need somebody else to talk to also. So we said, hey, that's great. Let's expand the program. So now our Pathfinder program has grown. We have about 184 Pathfinders trained across the state of South Carolina. I don't know how many connections. I think maybe up to 600-700. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head of veterans and transitioning service members that the Pathfinders have assisted. So we're very proud of those two programs. It's really grown legs, and it's continuing to grow and get better. So because of that, the success of those programs, we're actually shifting. So what is now known as the Division of Operations will become the Division of Workforce Enhancement.
Okay.
And that's really to tell, and starts effective next week, actually, 1 July. And so that really is to tell the story of the value that veterans bring to the workforce here in South Carolina. So every employer you talk to in South Carolina will say they want to hire veterans because of the hard skills and soft skills that they bring, their certifications and education and technical skills that we all have. So they want to hire veterans. So our goal is to tell those stories and make sure that, employers understand what it really means to be a veteran-friendly employer. It's not just, hey, I'm going to put you a parking spot out in front of the parking lot or a 10% discount. It's how do we make sure that you guys understand that being a veteran-friendly employer means that you have a career progression for veterans. You let veterans have a group, a resource group to be able to tell their stories. You maybe have some certifications that you can give them because of their military training. So we want to do all of that as well, and that's the same thing with the academic side as well. So we'll have two great universities, the University of South Carolina and Clemson, and we have a lot of other great universities as well in South Carolina who all are veteran friendly. But what does that really mean? And so we have our veteran friendly academic recognition program to kind of bring that discussion up to the table and say, hey, this is what it means when you say you're academic friendly university. This is what it means to the student veteran that you have. So we'll be working on that for about the next year to really kind of highlight those and do some career workshops and entrepreneur workshops and even some higher ed conferences just to really promote those three areas for South Carolina.
And thanks for sharing that, because I had the opportunity to go through the Pathfinder training myself. And for any veteran out here who have not heard about the Pathfinder program, please contact Stateside, the Veteran VA for the Stateside. They have a good training program. I believe about 4 or 5 days. So I was one of the lucky guys that was taken down to Murder Beach for a couple of days, in a hotel, relaxing, and everything's paid for. You go to a good training with some good folks out there from other VA, where the secretary shows up and gives some remarks. But I mean, it's amazing to where you go through the training for a couple of days, then 4 or 5 days, but you're also assisting veterans. I think that's the key. So reduce the level as far as suicide, we're saying, most especially for veterans that are going through transition during those critical times, as you stated, that 30 to 120, 180 days. It is a good program. I'm very familiar with it, and I would encourage anybody to please take advantage of it to where you can give back to those veterans. As we wrap up here, then just want to ask a couple of questions. What would you tell young, Danny, that is considering joining the military today? What we say, don't tell him to go infantry, man. Tell him to pick different ammo. But what advice would you give a young person out there who's considering, serving?
What I would tell, if I go back in time and I have a conversation with myself, what I would tell myself is enjoy it. It's you spend time in the Army. I used to have a reason to reenlist or reason to ETS a book, and so I'd write everything that would bad happen. I'd write down why to get out of the Army, and then on the back pages I'd have reasons why to stay in. And the reason why I always have is just one really thing to stay in is because still having fun. So enjoy the ride, enjoy the Army. The other thing I would tell myself is go to Ranger School sooner. So definitely a good time and definitely a good experience. So go to Ranger School earlier and learn how to swim because I'm not a very good swimmer, so that tripped me up a couple times. But go to Ranger School earlier, and then take more pictures. I didn't take enough pictures and memories and things, but those are probably the three things I would tell myself.
What's the best position you serve in?
The best position I served in, I say, was as a rifle company first sergeant. That was, I deployed twice as first sergeant, and just being able to take care of the guys, train, do things. You can affect things for your company. As a sergeant major, you can do a lot of things for your battalion, but as a company, being able to see the guys still up close and personal. And seeing the benefits was that was probably my best time.
Advice for a battalion commander.
Advice for the battalion commander, man, I would tell you, listen to your NCOs, but only listen to the ones who make sense. Because sometimes you get some weird stuff that comes out sometimes, but I really if I had to phrase it in a better way, it would be, just trust but verify what you hear.
That's amazing. And then final question for you, brother. I appreciate you. I think it's a very easy one. There should be no hesitation for you. The best MOS in the Army, man.
11 Bravo Infantry.
I thought you were going to slip up and say 13 Bravo or so, but hey, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
True story. My dad was a field artillery officer in Vietnam.
Man.
Brother-in-law is a retired field artillery officer. So I've got the field artillery family, but somebody's got to work.
All of them got it right, Dan, except for you, brother. You had to jump ship, huh? Yeah. No, man, I appreciate you, man. I've known you for a couple of years now. You've been an outstanding person in my life. You're always there when called upon for any support and in coaching and advice. I appreciate you. But most important, man, I want to say thanks for what you're doing for the veterans of the state of South Carolina, man. I'm always seeing you on different calls and different places, different outreach, and just providing the best support for veterans. It is having a profound impact on the state wide, really. I appreciate your service. I appreciate your family, man. And this is our platform, brother. If you want to come back and share anything else, please let me know, man. And then last parting words.
No, Sam, I appreciate you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I think this is the voice that veterans in South Carolina need to tell the story and help reconnect with the population. So thank you for all the stuff that you do. You've been a great pathfinder. You've been a great person to talk to, and I've always appreciated your words of wisdom.
I appreciate you, brother.